All right, here we are. Jay Gruden is with us. Jason Lloyd is with me as well. Jay Gruden, of course, longtime NFL coach, now Taking the Points podcast. Jay, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. This is a great spot.
Well, we asked him before. Well, I asked him before we started this taping. I was like, because these guys are all, making picks. I said, who's got the best record so far? And you seem pissed off that I would even suggest that these numbskulls would know more than you would.
It's an insult to me.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm in a contest right now with my group, and I got two former players that I'm playing against, Stink and Stokely, right?
Yeah.
I'm kicking their ass right now. So, you don't have to be a player.
There is no exact science to this.
No, certainly not.
Yeah.
But you are dominating. So you guys pick every game. Over, under, spreads, all of that.
Yeah.
You don't mess around.
We don't mess around.
No. And what do you think of people that pick games with no spreads?
Well, that's not the same thing.
Right.
Right? Anybody could do that.
That's very easy.
The spread is what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's where you make the dough.
That's right. How did you get into this aspect of the sport?
My son has his podcast, Taking the Point, so
Right.
I kind of jumped on with him just for the fun of it. And obviously sports gambling is huge nowadays. Everywhere you look, the spreads are there, and it's entertainment, really.
Do you think when you first got into football, could you have imagined how in bed football would be with gambling at this point?
No, I never thought it would be. It was
Yeah.
always so frowned upon to gamble and be part of it. It still is, obviously, the players and coaches for sure, but it is a necessary part of the game because everybody's so involved in it. It's
no doubt.
The interest level is so high right now. There's so many different websites and sports books and all that stuff that you have to be part of it.
When you look at the NFL this season, we were talking about this on the show last week with Jay. It feels like defense is making a comeback. Mm-hmm. Do you see it that way? And why are we evolving back now? Is the pendulum swinging back around the other way to where it's not just offense, but defenses are figuring out how to stop these spread attacks?
Definitely, they're trying to get the rules for the offense, with all the tackling and all that stuff, but defenses are playing better. I think there's a lot of reasons for it. I think the lack of solid quarterback play, across the board is one. Offensive line play is kind of down. And if you really look across the league at the wide receiver core for all these teams, there's really not a lot of true playmakers across the board. There's probably 10 to 12 really true number ones.
Yeah.
But there's really not a lot of great wide receivers for whatever reason. I don't know why that is. But offensive line play, quarterback play, and receiver play is a little bit down right now.
Is that cyclical? Just the big play making receivers that, we go through history. There's obviously been a ton of them. Do these things just run in cycles?
Yeah, it must. I don't know. I can't explain it. You'd think that the receiver position would be the easiest to find, but you can look at a couple of rosters and you're like, who's their best receiver?
Right,
You know what I mean?
sure.
They're struggling to get open, and everybody's blaming the quarterbacks and all that stuff. But, you think that you could find a guy that can run a 4.40 and pretty good-sized kid that can catch, but there's not a lot out there, to be honest with you.
Jay, what do you think about the fact that I brought this up, I think it was yesterday or the day before. It seems like, back in the day, guys played a lot in training camp, guys played a lot in the preseason. As we go on now, and I feel like the last 2 years it's really gone extreme, the top quarterbacks and a lot of the top skill position players either play very little or not at all. Is that a factor early in the season?
A little bit, yes, for sure, especially for the young quarterbacks. They need to play. And the reps, we always preach, myself and my brother, repetition is king for quarterbacks. And it's a lot of these young players. You have to get reps. You have to see the concepts versus a defense. You have to adjust your thinking, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, whatever it might be, where you're going with the ball in each concept. And if you don't get those reps, those live reps, it has an impact on your career.
Yeah, I'm curious. I wasn't going to admit this, but I'm going to do it now because it's important with this question. We're actually recording this before the Sunday game where the Browns play this weekend. But, through 5 games so far, the Browns defense has been phenomenal. They were awful last year on defense. Obviously, they upgraded the talent on the defensive line. Much of the back 7 is the same guys from last year. How much of the credit for this defense so far do you give to Jim Schwartz? Because it seems like he's done a magnificent job.
A lot. Coach Schwartz has always been a great defensive coordinator. He's got a very solid system in place. Guys know where they're supposed to be. They're very detailed. They're very specific in what they want to do, and they play hard. All his defenses have always played extremely hard, and they play fast, and they're well coached, obviously, and he does a great job, and he has talent that can do it, and that's the big thing. There's a lot of good coaches that don't have the talent that get fired. I'm one of them. Just kidding. But he has the talent. He has 2 premier pass rushers. He got one of the best cover corners in the league. The linebackers can run. Their safeties are physical. So, yeah, he's got the talent, and he's got a great scheme.
What have you thought about Deshaun coming back to this point and just his play overall in general? And do you think he can get back to the level that he was in Houston?
Yeah, he's not there yet.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Last year, I think he didn't play very well. This year, he's had a couple spurts where he's played okay. He's got this rotator cuff issue right now, so we'll see how he does coming back from that. But his accuracy is the one thing he's got to continue to work on, and his footwork, he's got to be consistent in that matter. We all know he can run and do the athletic things, but within the pocket, he's got to get better. Known passing situations, he's got to get better for the Browns to have a chance moving forward in the big picture.
How much should this rotator cuff be a concern, do you think, moving forward?
I'd never heard of a bruised rotator cuff, to be honest
Me
with you.
neither.
I don't even know what that is.
They're torn or they're,
Well, we had Bernie Kosar was with us the other day, and he said, they said this week there was a micro tear, whatever the hell that is, in the rotator cuff, right? And Bernie says he had the same thing in '89, and he just kept playing with it, because it didn't hurt that much. He said it just would affect some of his throws, and as he played, it got worse. Now he did, like I said, he injured it and then played 6 days later or 7 days later, whereas Watson's been off a month here. So you hope that a month can heal it up.
Yeah,
you never know, I guess.
I don't know what it is, so it's hard for me to comment on
Yeah.
that. But I'm sure if he comes back into play, he can make all the throws. There's no way he can come back and say, well, I can't throw the deep ball. I'll play, though, but I can't. That won't happen. We're
Right.
better off with P.J. Walker in that case.
Can you explain, we go back to Jim Schwartz and the Schwartz's scheme. The way it was explained to me was it all starts up front, and he just wants to create chaos up front with the defensive line, and everything else sort of trickles down off of that. Can you just sort of explain why his scheme fits so well?
Well, that's exactly right. He has the players, number one, to create the chaos. He's got two edge players that are good. He's always been like a wide nine guy, those guys jetting up the field and the internal people getting pushed. Sounds simple, but you have to have the guys that do that. Zadarius and Miles on the outside are perfect for him to do that. And then you got Tomlinson on the inside plugging up the runs and doing all the things that they need to do. And it really frees up the linebackers, and it's very hard for double teams and all that stuff. Tackles are out there, and it's hard for tight ends and tackles, double team a defensive end when they're just jetting up the field like crazy. And it impacts the bootleg, the play action game, because usually when you do a play action pass, teams are playing a run. Not them. They're always jetting up the field, and they're getting pressure right away, and it's chaotic, like you mentioned.
Lamar Jackson is the only one. Well, the Ravens are the only team that's had any success against the Browns defense so far. Now, that was a game where we thought Watson was going to play to the last minute. The last second, it was DTR, and he clearly wasn't ready to play. Do you think there's something to Lamar Jackson's ability to run, as obviously better than any other quarterback, that affected the Browns defense, or is it more coincidence and the team was expecting Watson to play, so maybe the whole team was affected by that, or is that just an excuse that we would make?
No, I think when you go to DTR, a rookie, that's going to have an impact on your game, right? I mean, he probably didn't get many reps in training camp or OTAs. I mean, he's getting the third-team reps or second-team reps, which is very minimal.
Yeah.
Usually when you're getting a quarterback ready to play, they're taking every rep, and he probably got minimal reps. That's one. So that offense was majorly impacted, obviously without Chubb. But defensively, when you play a quarterback that can run like Lamar, Jalen Hurts, or Josh Allen, it does have slight impact on, okay, we can't be too reckless with our lanes, because he'll step up and be up and out of there and hurt you real bad with his legs, so that could have an impact.
What surprised you this year about the NFL? Anything stood out? Any team surprised you, players?
Probably the dominance of Miami's offense
Yeah.
and Tua, the way he's playing, right? I mean, he is just throwing the ball extremely well. Nobody really could tell how good he would be, but his anticipation, his accuracy has been off the charts, and Raheem Mostert, man, he's been running the crap out of the ball. He's awesome too. So probably Miami's efficiency on offense. Other than that, I think just scoring in general is down a little bit, which is kind of surprising with all the rules that are catered to the offense. You'd think it would be more scoring, but there's really not. It's really down.
I have a theory on Miami. I was talking about this a couple weeks ago on the show. That's a team to me needs home field throughout, because if you have to go to Kansas City or Buffalo, does that offense and that speed, do you think it'll translate as well in January in Kansas City or Buffalo as it does in Miami?
That'll be an issue. Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think they do need to play at home. But when you can run, you can run. But you're right, throwing the ball in some of those tough weather situations, kind of like Brock Purdy did against Cleveland, rain and a little bit of wind, he had trouble throwing the ball. And Tua will have that same issue if he's playing in Buffalo in the wind and cold and snow.
We've talked about the possibility of the Browns going after a better veteran backup, considering Deshaun Watson has this injury he's dealing with. Obviously P.J. Walker's been in the league. He's played a little bit, but he's not a guy you can't win in the playoffs. I don't think with him. I had, there's been some talk about Kirk Cousins, but he's got a no trade clause, so I don't know if that's going to happen. I suggested Andy Dalton. Obviously, Andy Dalton. Is he, it's felt like for the last decade you had to have a great quarterback to win a Super Bowl. If the Browns do have this all-time great defense, they got to prove it for a lot longer. Maybe they can win with a mid-tier quarterback. Is Andy Dalton still capable of being a mid-tier quarterback?
Can I rewind 1 second? Did you say Kirk Cousins is a backup?
No. If I did, I didn't mean that. It's an option. Maybe I meant to say a backup option.
I think you meant as a target.
As a target for the Browns. Yes. If Deshaun were out for the year or something like that.
Yeah.
But what do you still think about Andy Dalton?
I love Andy. Andy can win a lot of games for you, and I had him for 3 years, and we won 30 games with him in his first 3 years as a pro quarterback. He gets the ball to the right people. He's really smart, and he's a lot more athletic than you give him credit for.
Yeah.
And I love him. He does have a little bit of a weakness, maybe throwing the ball deep down the field, but with the offense they have here, I think he'd be a perfect fit for a lot of things. He played at Carolina one game and threw for almost 400 yards already.
Right.
I mean, he's still got a lot left in the tank. He's smart. He's a great team player. He's a good leader. He'll never create any kind of controversy whatsoever. He'd be a great target if they could get him.
Nick Chubb, obviously, that injury was devastating for the Browns. He's one of the best backs. As someone who's coaching on the other side, what did you think of Nick Chubb?
Love Nick Chubb. I remember scouting Todd Gurley, right? And Todd Gurley was a great college player. And I can remember watching film and I'd watch the entire game. They kept putting in this number 27 guy. I go, this Todd Gurley's awesome, but who the hell is 27?
Yeah.
It was Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
He's awesome. He's a great guy, too, and he's a heck of a back. He was in the draft, and we really wanted him in that draft. We ended up getting Darius Geis. He was gone already, but, Darius had some injuries, but Nick's a hell of a player.
Miles a couple weeks ago drew a delay penalty by shifting from one side to the other, and I forget what team was it where they sent two.
It was against Tennessee.
It was Tennessee, where they were trying to double team him, and they literally had to send both blockers the other side, and they couldn't snap the ball because he wouldn't stop moving. Crazy question, but will we ever get to the point where defensive guys start doing that more, and there's motion on the defensive side to try and change up schemes and blitz patterns and to try and there's only a handful of guys in the league who are that good that would command guys to follow them across the line. I get that, but I just wonder, we see all this motion on the offensive side, will we ever get to see that on the defensive side?
Some defenses do that. They'll shift in from double A's and shift out, or shift into a normal front, get into double A's and get into their blitz packages. If you line up an empty, they'll get to their empty automatic. So some teams do that. Miles wants to get away from the tight end so they don't chip him. So he's trying to get over to the other side away from the tight ends, and Tennessee was kind of stupid. They could have put the tight end at fullback and just shifted him last minute. Where's he at? Okay, let me go now. Don't line up over there. That was kind of a ridiculous play. But, but as far as movement for defenses, yes, they change their coverages all the time, and they try to rotate. That's why it's important for offenses. And you see a lot of motions and shifts and jet sweep motions, because that makes it harder on the defense, because they got to know their responsibilities. So a lot of defenses nowadays are more stagnant because everybody's motioning and shifting. And it's hard for them. Okay, where's the passing strength? Where's my guy going to be at last minute? So it's tough.
Yeah. Do you think coaches, there's so many numbers and analytics involved in the game now? How much do coaches, when they're making a decision to go for it on fourth down, kick a field goal as opposed to trying to go for a touchdown? How is gut? Gut's still a big part of the game, obviously, even with all the information you have. Are there coaches that rely too much on the numbers and don't use their gut enough, and vice versa?
I think it should be all about the gut and about your people, their players, your kicker. How is he accurate? Can he make the 55-yard field goal?
Right.
We should know that going into a game. And then the rest of it it's people related, like who are we going against?
Right.
Numbers, analytics are for numbers, right? This is a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. This is how fast this guy skates or whatever it is. It's not about people. It's not about coverages, and it's not about fronts. So I don't think analytics should play a part in pro football, except for snapper, kicker, holder, because you can tell on those, right? Mm-hmm. But as far as, hey, you should go for it on 4th and 1 at the 40-yard line because the numbers say so. Well, I have a rookie center playing against the best nose guard in pro football.
Right.
It's not the numbers. It's about the people in front of you,
It's fair.
Jalen Hurts, the tush push,
Yeah.
is a lot more. It's easier to get 4th and 1 than Kirk Cousins' tush push.
Right.
Yeah.
Not to mention he's got Jason Kelsey in front of him, one of the best centers.
Yeah.
So it's more.
Do you have a problem with that play? People are whining about it. I'm like, well, stop him. Find a way to stop him.
Quarterback sneak's been in.
I don't know.
Forever.
It seems to be a big hubbub right now in the league. I don't get it.
You
Bunch
saw
of whiners.
who was it? Dallas tried it. last week
Yeah.
against the Chargers?
Yeah.
Rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Browns don't. They use a tight end when they have to sneak it now with Harrison Bryant. They don't even use
A lot of teams
Deshaun.
motion the tight end and take the snap. I want to do that at Washington, but I was always scared if I did that, but we'd fumble the snap and I'd never forgive myself.
Are there coaches, by the way, like if you make a decision on fourth down, kicking all that stuff, and then if it blows up in your face, even if it was probably the right call, but it didn't go well, and then you're going to be criticized by the fans, you're going to be criticized by the media. Are there coaches that care about that stuff? Because to me, you can't be, but there probably are some coaches that are affected by that stuff.
You definitely care about it because it has an impact on the success of the game. Your decisions that you make, those are really the most important decisions. The decisions as far as personnel and the coaches and all that stuff are done, but the decisions that you have to make as a head coach on game day are those. Kick it or go for it. Those are the tough decisions. Those are the ones you got to live with, and unfortunately, you're not always going to be right. You just have to go with your gut, and you have to trust your team. And if it does fail, then you have to trust your defense to get the ball back or whatever it might be.
You said something a minute ago that made me think of this. When it comes to trick plays, we have a head coach here who loves trick plays. How do you design them? How do you come up with them? And do you have like an all-time favorite trick play that you ever ran?
Wow. We had one that we didn't call, which it was so beautiful in practice. I didn't call it, though. Anyway, trick plays, I usually like to have at least one trick play in the game plan. I usually put it in on Friday, because you do your meat and potatoes of your offense on, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday is red zone day, so you put it in on red zone day, and then you practice it on Saturday during the walkthrough, just get it going. But we had a play where the quarterback was going to roll out to the right, and Trent Williams was going to really kick back really deep. We're going to throw a screen to Trent Williams. And it looked so, Trent's such a good athlete. We ran it in practice on Friday, and he looked like Gale Sayers running down a field for a tackle. And we were playing Philadelphia. We got ready to call it, and we were up by like 10 points at the time.
Yeah.
And Trent waved me off. He said, "Don't call it."
Really?
Mike, I know you got a couple questions, but I want to ask you this real quick. What football movie or television show have you seen that is closest to real football?
Little Giants. Sometimes there's games when I coached we couldn't get a first down and we got a yard. Hey, we got a yard.
It's a great movie.
But the closest one,
Yeah.
I don't know, probably. What movie was pretty good? Sneaky was The Replacements.
That's a good one.
That was a good one. Because I remember when The Replacements actually happened. A buddy of mine, Ed Rupert, was a quarterback for the Washington Redskins. Actually, I went to college with him.
Yeah.
And he told stories about it. It was kind of similar to that.
Was that the Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves one?
No, Keanu Reeves and Gene Hackman
Gene Hackman
was the coach.
That's right.
Go ahead, Mikey.
Well, Coach, thanks again for taking some time to hang out with us today. You can find Coach, his son JJ and Grant Puskar on the Taking the Points pod, wherever you find your podcast. Coach, I have a couple questions. First, Bill Belichick always talked about Larry Fitzgerald in the highest of lights. When you were scouting opposing teams, was there one player who consistently kind of popped off the screen as a guy you're like, damn, that dude's way better than he gets credit for?
Way better than he gets credit for, or just really good? There's been a lot of guys. Like, I can remember when I first got in the league as a coordinator with the Cincinnati Bengals. I know you guys don't like them. But it was fun because I got to coach against Baltimore Ravens and Ray Lewis and Ed Reed.
Yeah.
Those two guys were sick. And then you'd go the next week and you're playing Troy Polamalu. Those guys are sick. But, yeah, I mean, there's so many great defenses in this AFC North. It's crazy. But those guys really, they make it hard to sleep. How the hell are we going to get a yard?
Yeah.
All right, next up,
We got
Coach.
a yard. There you go.
By the way, speaking of Ed Reed, one of the dumbest things I've ever said in my career, over 20 years, I was very early in my career. I think it was Ed Reed's rookie season in Baltimore, right? I was doing a radio show in Utica, New York, and Ed Reed had an interception, and he was, I don't know if you remember this play, I don't even remember who it was against, but he was showboating on the interception, and he fumbled before getting, should have been an easy touchdown for him. He fumbled, and I got on the radio, I'm like, what an idiot. They should cut this guy.
Yeah. But
All-time dumb statement.
But the most dominant player I ever coached against was still at Cincinnati was JJ Watt.
Oh, yeah.
He was incredible. He lined up everywhere on the front, so you like Myles Garrett. You know where he is. You could whatever. But this guy was a three technique, a nose, an end over here. He was a nightmare. He could rush a passer. He batted balls down, chase people from behind. He was tough. He was a bad.
I mean, they won a playoff game with T.J. Yates.
We played him back-to-back years in the playoffs.
Yep.
And
We got two more fun ones to end here, Coach. How do you, when you guys are coming up with names of plays, I heard Kyle Shanahan go over one of his play calls, and it was like 38 words long. When you're coming up with the play name to give to the quarterback, How in the world do you guys come up with a 15-word cadence that they're supposed to remember and know what it's supposed to be?
It seems like it's not necessary to call
Well, it really
that long.
is if you think about it, right? You think about the initial, first of all, the personnel grouping. Then you got to think about the formation, the strength of the formation, so right, and then where you got to put the receivers, bunch right, whatever it is. Then if you want any motion or shift, then if you want a fly motion, whatever that is, you got to talk about the pass protection, right? That's got to be in there. You got to talk about the routes, right? You got to do the cadence, and some of the routes you can't just say zap. You got to tag certain players. Like at Cincinnati, I had to tag like 4 different guys because I was afraid they'd forget to play, so I just tagged them. Z in, X go, Y flat.
Were there ever any players? Were there players that you coached that you like? This guy's a dumbass, but he's great at memorizing the plays. Like you couldn't believe it because you thought he struggled because
That's
he's not
exactly
that smart.
right. And there were smart guys that couldn't remember the plays. So you can never judge a book by their GPA in college. Or whatever, you know what I mean? Deshaun Jackson's a great example. Now he went to Cal. But he's not dumb at all. But he tries to act like he's not paying attention in meetings. And he's one of the smartest guys I ever coached.
Yeah.
He remembered everything. He knew every position. And he's great.
But Mike, before you get, I want to follow up on.
Yep, you're good.
Yeah.
How many plays are on your call sheet for a game? Like everyone makes fun of Kevin Stefanski's Denny's menu, but when you go,
Everybody's
into a game,
got those big ones.
But when you go into a game on Sunday, are you only running things that you worked on that week? Could you go back 3 weeks ago and pull something, or will the guys be unprepared for it? And how many calls really are you going off of?
Yeah, that's a great question. They're personnel group related, situation related, and there's a lot. So you got your 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, 21 personnel, whatever it is, your personnel groupings plays, and then you got your situational plays, 3rd and 2 to 5, 3rd and 6 to 8, short yardage, goal line, red zone, plus 20 in, plus 15, plus 10, plus 5. So they're categorized like that. Your play action, your boots, your nakeds, then you got your run list, and they're quite a lot.
Yeah.
So what happens is, like when I was at Washington, I'd have some 2 tight end plays and 3 tight end plays in the game plan. I'd have quite a few plays in there because that was our best set. If you lose one of those guys, then you got to go to more 11 personnel plays, and you got to have a big list for that. So it's personnel related, situation related, and then obviously you have your 2-minute and all that stuff. There's a lot.
Is it 50? Are there 50
Oh
plays?
no, I carry like 120.
Really?
Yeah.
And the players know all of them.
They better, yeah.
Especially
a lot
the
of them you've been
quarterback.
repping in camp, and some of them are repetition from 4 verticals. You could have 3 different ways or 4 different ways to run 4 verticals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Out of bunch, Z motion, whatever the formation might be. So one play, all go, which we all know, could be in there 3 different times out of different formations and personnel groups.
All right, I have to follow up on one more, and then
Keep going.
And I got to follow up on that too.
We're
Then
I
we're
have a
gonna.
great one to end it, though. I'm
Yeah, okay, we'll wrap it up with you. Go ahead.
Why do teams have so much success with the scripted plays, and then it can unravel from there? Because we saw it with the Niners-Browns game. The Niners march right down the field, great job off the script, and then the Browns just shut off the water. We saw it last year with Stefanski's scripted plays. The Browns go right down the field, score, nothing the rest of the game. Why is it that those scripted plays work so well, and then teams sometimes get stuck in the mud and can't do anything after that?
That's a great question. Sometimes teams are a little more creative, and those are the feature plays they really worked on, had success with all week in practice. And a lot of defenses are a little more conservative early in the game because they're worried about that crazy shifting and all that stuff. And then once the game, after the first 1 or 2 or 3 series settles in, everybody becomes more to their identity.
Yeah.
And defenses kind of feel more comfortable. I remember Bill Belichick said he always used to try to weather the storm for the first 12 to 15 plays. And then after that, defenses would settle in and play a lot better.
Jay, all the young offensive coaches in the league all call their own plays. I mean, almost without exception. Do you think that's a good idea? Like, it's been every time the Browns have a bad offensive game, the fans scream, he should stop calling plays. Let his offensive coordinator call the plays. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you got the job for a reason because you're a good play caller.
Right.
And you might as well do to your strength, what your strength is. So, yeah, I think they should call their own plays. What are they going to do? Just walk around the sideline like Pete Carroll and chew gum? I mean, you got to be involved in the offense because that's what they were hired to do.
Right.
I mean, certain coaches are great, like Pete Carroll and Mike Tomlin. These guys are great motivators and great coaches, don't get me wrong. And that's what they're hired to do. But guys like Stefanski, McVay, and Shanahan, they are there because they have good offensive minds, not because they run football teams, because they call plays extremely well.
I was told Shanahan's not even on the defensive headset. when the defense is on the field. Like, he is all offense. Kyle has nothing to do with the defense. I'm guessing that's not that uncommon.
Probably the case with
I
Stefanski,
didn't
too.
really listen to the defense a lot, like call plays, but I would be obviously you have to be aware for challenge flags and what's
Sure.
going on situationally and all that stuff, and check on your players and make sure you're watching them.
And on the challenge plays, by the way, is there's somebody in your ear saying challenge or not challenge?
Oh yeah. You have your guys up in the booth are watching it.
Mike, give us a good one to wrap it up.
This is the last one, Coach. We'll get you out of here. Thanks again. Check out Coach Gruden, JJ, and Grant on the Taking the Points pod. As I was doing research for this, Coach, I had no idea, and I bet you Bull and Jay don't know, that you're an Arena Football League Hall of Famer, a 2-time Arena League champion. You threw 400 touchdown passes in the arena. No?
6-time arena champion. Come on, get it right.
Let's go. Straighten yourself out.
Four times a player, 2 times a coach.
Wikipedia. Oh, okay, that's it. You threw 400 touchdowns, 2 MVPs, a 104.72 passer rating. Coach, which quarterback in the NFL most resembles your playing style back in the Arena League?
Oh, Joe Montana. No, I'm not saying I was as good as Joe Montana. My dad coached at Notre Dame, and my dad was partly responsible for them getting Joe Montana, so I kind of emulated my game after my footwork, everything. I was never obviously as good as Joe Montana, but I was the Joe Montana of the Arena Football.
There you go.
You were, yes.
So,
I knew some of those stats because I'm a Bengals fan, so I knew that gets brought up when you guys when you were there. And I called games for the Cleveland Arena League team for a little while when they went to the championship that one year against Arizona.
The Gladiators? Was that?
They
were you here for that?
I was here.
I don't know.
I've been here 12 years. It's a long time.
what year was that? They never went to the championship when I was there.
No, recent. I don't know,
Oh,
2016, 17, something around there.
I think the Arena League folded like 2000.
Yeah.
Right around
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then they tried to come back.
Right, they came back. They're bringing it back again. Another version of it as well.
It's a great league, and it's a lot of fun.
Jay, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was fun. Thank you.
All right, Mikey, back to you.